The film which you're about to see is not an enthralling one, but it is a necessary one. It concerns the cylinder head of my Bedford van, which I removed in order to deal with the faulty head gasket. It would have been remiss of me not to afford the cylinder head some attention whilst it was off. So in this video, that is exactly what I do. Just removing the valves for inspection and to sort out the stem seals. We'll see what the seatings are like. Yeah, stem seals. I'm going to read up on that in the manual, see what type should be fitted. I don't think it should be them, because you see the little springs have come off one or two of them, which is not good. So just remembering to keep the valves in order. Just a simple rig there. One, of course, being at the front of the engine. I can tell that because that's where the water pump went. And the exhaust, the manifolds are on the left hand side. It's too windy today to be doing open sump surgery, so I'll get this ready to refit. So the valve head, it's not great, but not particularly bad. I think this is just sort of water that's got into the engine through the faulty head gasket. It's made a bit of a mess. I'm more interested in the seatings, which aren't too bad actually. They're fine. There's no sign of valve seat recession or pocketing, which is good. And yeah, they do appear to have been ground in reasonably well. So it's nothing, a thorough clean up and lap them in again. Nothing that won't solve with this. But yeah, otherwise they're okay. Yeah, not bad at all. One thing I did notice working on this engine is the use of this silicone RTV, whatever the hell you call it, shit. That is never a good sign on any engine. Never a good sign at all. That is the bodger's choice, that stuff. Horrible stuff it is. There should be no need for it whatsoever on any engine. And I blame the proliferation of this stuff on those 1970s and 80s DIY motorist magazines. It was heavily advertised, was this stuff back in those days, as being instant gasket, whatever, and it quickly came into widespread use, which is not a good thing at all. Just removing the remains of the old water pump gasket. Being careful not to damage the face behind. So the valves have now been lapped in, and I've just removed all traces of grinding compound. I only used fine because there's been some work done on this, as we already know. It appears to have had exhaust valve seat inserts put in as well. It would appear to have had hardened seats fitted, or at least new seats, so I won't need to use an additive. Or at least it looks that way to me. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I removed all traces of grinding compound. Now I'll get onto the valves presently, but the seats have come up just fine. There's a bit of pitting here. The larger ones, as is often the case, are the inlet valves. There's a bit of pitting there, you see, but it's not going to affect gas sealing, that really, because there's most of a good seal yeah, it's not too bad. Really, to get rid of that properly, I would need to cut the seating slightly, and I don't have a cutting tool, so I can't do that. Similar with that one. That will be a job after this has hopefully had a long service life, and in many tens of thousands of miles, if it has to come off again. That's something that could be considered then, but that's jumping the gun. So they've all come up very well. I'm happy with that. I've cleaned all traces of gasket and silicone sealant from the faces there. I've cleaned the head up. That's fine. Given that a good thorough clean. Unusual detail. These are sort of spring pans for the valve springs, which is evidently a Vauxhall Bedford General Motors practice. I've not seen that before. They usually just fit straight on the cylinder head, or there's a little depression, a little cup cast into the cylinder head to take the springs. Just an interesting detail. They're all slightly different, the engines of that period, when every manufacturer had their own ways of doing things. So let's move on to the valves and I can start putting this back together. Valves all replaced. And I've just put a little clean engine oil on the stem and guide of each one, because they'd otherwise be dry, which is most undesirable, especially when I start this engine up for the first time. They will be moving quite rapidly and it will be metal on metal, so just a little oil on the stem of each one as you put it in. That helps a lot, and you can see some of them are even just falling out now under, well, coming down a bit under their own weight, which is good, which means they're very free to move. There's no play in the stems, in the guides. That's something to check for. check for play. What else? Oh yes, valve stem seals. Well, first of all, valves, you'll notice that some of them are different. These with two recesses are the original correct Vauxhall Bedford valves. These here, these are replacements. I don't know where they've come from, but they've been replaced, and they only have one groove. That's to take the collets. The valve stem seal should fit in the second groove on the inlet valves only. Now I've reused these. Well, I've salvaged what I can, and these were a real pig to get off here. They were really on tight, so some of them have been slightly damaged, but I've retained the four best. Seals should be on the inlets only. That's because they will suck oil in. The exhaust valves, of course, needed a bit of lubrication because they run hotter, and on the overrun there's no suction effect created there on the exhaust, unlike the inlets. If there weren't seals on the inlets, on overrun conditions, that is where with foot off the throttle, the momentum of the vehicle is driving the engine. A powerful vacuum, a powerful suction effect is created in the cylinders, which on a worn engine, when you go on the throttle again and look in the rear view mirror, there's blue smoke. That's because oil is being sucked in up past the rings and down the valve guides. So they should be alright. It didn't smoke before, the engine, there was no smoke at all. So yeah, that's it. It would have had the O-ring seals originally in this second groove, not these type, which incidentally I haven't come across before. They must be Vauxhall specific, I'm not sure, but certainly in the workshop manual it says to fit the rubber O-rings in that second groove. Now these are actually better than the O-rings, that's why I've retained them. So I just got to reinstall the springs. I'll do that, need both hands for it, and that'll then be ready to refit. I'll wrap it up in protective paper or something, ready to refit. And there it is, all finished. One of them weird exhaust rings.
Inlet, not exhaust.
Again, a Vauxhall peculiarity. Don't know if that's come from America, don't know. Never seen it before on any of my other car engines. But there it is, all reinstalled. You'll note some of them are slightly higher than others. Well, that's because they sit more in the block. I don't know what that was. Anyway, that's it, done, ready to refit. All cleaned up, spick and span. That paint on the valve strings, I don't know how that got on there or why. I washed them all in paraffin. I give them all a good scrub up in paraffin before refitting to clean them, and it leaves a residue on it which will help protect them. So I'm just going to wrap this up now, literally and metaphorically. Put it in the bag to just protect it, and see you hopefully in the next one when I've made a bit more headway. Cheers.